I think AI is disruptive to lazy, bad writers. It's additive to quality for good writers. Mm-hmm. And we are starting to see who's who.
Hello. This is Matt Banker. You are listening to the Marketing for Accounting Firms podcast, where we sometimes talk about marketing for accounting firms, but mostly we talk about what it means to run an accounting firm business, bookkeeping, tax, whatever you do. And so we talk about marketing through the lens of what it looks like in real life situations. Today, I have Isaac Smith with me. And Isaac, thanks for being on the show.
Thanks for having me. This is going to be really fun. I'm excited.
Isaac, you don't own an accounting firm or a bookkeeping business or anything like that, but you did. Give us the background.
I ran a bookkeeping firm with a partner for a few years. We built it on the back of 2020, coming off of 2019. Mm-hmm. We built a bookkeeping firm to serve e-commerce clients because I was an e-commerce guy. And I ran an e-commerce business and sold it in 2019. And I always just really hated my accountants. Like, they were the worst. And so I didn't know what I didn't know. And of course, it makes a really big difference in your business and in your personal life when you understand what's going on in your business. And for years, I always wished that somebody could just meet me where I was with under an accountant or bookkeeper or somebody could help me understand what's going on. It's simple things like I didn't even know that I shouldn't look at the net profit line on my P&L and look in my bank account. I wish somebody would have told me that. And long winding journey through that business. Eventually I educated myself and decided when I sold that, oh my gosh, I have so many friends who are in this industry who are like me, who need some help. And so I foolishly thought I should start a bookkeeping firm. I did on my own, realized I couldn't do it, and then I brought in a partner to help. And so that in 2020 we launched. Perfect timing, of course, January. But yeah, so we built a firm over a few years, and I now run a company called Team Up, does something different. It helps firms hire in the Philippines, which is what we did. But yeah, so he still runs the firm.
Yeah.
But now I do this.
How did you stumble into hiring in the Philippines, and why was that the direction? This was with your bookkeeping firm, right?
Yeah, I didn't see any reason not to. Why wouldn't I? I talk with accountants, and sometimes they say, why would you do that? And I go, I wouldn't even know how to hire an American if I wanted to. So I've been running businesses for 11 years now, but it started out just very scrappy, right?
Yeah.
Online, and Upwork was a big deal. And in the early days, I had no money at all. Every dollar was important. That's how I ended up slowly building a few e-commerce businesses, a couple of them not very successful. One did work out, and just I learned all the hard lessons over them.
Yeah.
And when it was time for us to build the bookkeeping team, it was just obvious what to do.
Yeah.
In my mind.
My path is not exactly the same as yours, but I took a winding route. I have a fine arts degree originally. I was a youth pastor for a couple of years. I taught high school and middle school art at an international school in China for a couple of years, and then I eventually found my way into marketing. And the first marketing company I worked with was not successful at all. It was a childhood friend and there's a lot of issues with the way the business was run. And I don't know if this is true or not, but for me, I feel like I've learned a lot more from failure than I have from success. And so by being in this, what I saw as a dysfunctional business, when I went out and started on my own, I thought, if they could make money the way, like being as bad at this as they were, I'm sure I can do better. And that was, maybe that was a little bit of my own ego in the mix here as well. But yeah, I learned a lot from that experience of what not to do. And ideally, if you can fail using somebody else's money, that's like the best way to do it. But,
if only I had known.
Yeah, that is one nice advantage. But let me just throw it back to you. When you think back across all of your experience with the e-commerce businesses and the bookkeeping, are there any like mistakes or failures that kind of come to mind that you feel like that was such an important lesson to learn and has really impacted you going forward?
Oh my gosh, there's just too many. You're right. Yeah. It's funny. I listen to a lot of podcasts and I go on Twitter, and sometimes that's dangerous. But it's funny, the message, sometimes people say you only learn through failure, but then there's the other argument that comes in and say, did you actually learn the right lesson anyway? How would I ever know? But I think, yeah, it's really taught me a lot of what not to do. But if you're asking me what's on the top of my mind, relating to the team, it's funny, when I was building these e-commerce businesses, I was in other communities where I'm always talking with other people like me, building, marketing, sales, talking about conversion rate optimization. And it's funny that I was always talking about my team. And my peers were like, what are you talking about that for, you weirdo? And I just always thought, well, this is important. And one thing I learned is it's important to be in the right business for you. You can do any number of businesses. So why was I doing e-commerce? Why are you doing marketing? Are any of the listeners doing whatever it is they're doing, whether it's accounting or whatever? I think really founder business model or founder service or whatever fit is really important. I was just not cut out to be a product guy. And it turns out like e-commerce people don't really care that much about their team. And it sounds mean, but they don't. And what they care about is marketing and sales and landing pages and PPC and Facebook ads and all of that stuff. And the team is just what has to be there. Maybe it doesn't even have to be there.
Yeah.
But when I started working so I started out recruiting for them, actually, our e-commerce. But then when I started talking with accountants, they really needed people, right? That was a really big and important thing. And so anyway, it just fills me up in a different way than shipping a product ever did. So I think that's really important. That's like the first thing that comes to mind.
Yeah. No, I think that's interesting, and I feel like that is really true, even in my own business. And I see this a lot with the accountants that I interact with. There are some people who are leaders of teams. They're building a business, and it's a system, and they're looking for the right people to plug into the right places. There are other people who are just incredibly smart and are dedicated to the craft. And when people think about what is the best way to build my business, understanding yourself is a big part of that process. I think, to bring some of my own experience into the conversation, one of the ways I always talk about it is it feels like running a business is like 30% being good at the thing that you're good at. And then 70% is figuring out all these things that you never thought you had to learn. And there's a lot of internal work that goes into this. Like maybe you have to be a salesperson for the first time, and you have to actually like say a high number for a fee, and it makes you feel uncomfortable when you're on a sales call, or you have to manage people, you have to fire people. So many of these things have nothing to do with the craft of marketing or the craft of accounting or whatever that is. And so learning about yourself. Now, obviously, we all grow as well. Right. We grow into that 70% in different ways, and it's a little unpredictable. And I think you also find some areas that maybe you're better at than you realize when you start. You think you've got a defined skill set, and then it turns out actually maybe you're a great boss, or maybe you are really good at the building systems and things like that. So I feel like I probably lean more towards I like talking with people and the strategy and the idea side of things. And so I had to find it's actually my sibling, Nate, runs our operations side of the business. So I had to find someone who was better at the processes and the managing of the team in that system so that I can do fun things like go have podcasts and talk with people. I know we're going to talk more about Team Up in particular, but it's got the word team in it. You already brought it up that you liked managing a team. What kind of insights do you bring when it comes to, do you have thoughts on like how do you build a good team? What's important in the alchemy of bringing a group together? Is this something that you found that you're particularly skilled in, or is it something that you've really had to learn and grow in?
Yeah, I think there's a lot that goes into building a great team. So I think it's worth backing up just a little bit. If we're talking to accounting firm owners or just us as business owners, what creates a thriving service business company? You need a great team, a thriving team, a happy team. How do you do that? There's a whole lot of components that go into that. There's a whole lot of pieces. First is having the right person in the first place, because if you have the wrong person, it's just not going to work. And then how do you support that person? How do you lead and manage that person? I don't think there are any right answers, actually. Just lots of different ways of going about it. I learned some really hard lessons in my e-commerce days, and as awful as they were, I spent years trying to figure it out and just falling on my face. And so am I naturally good at it? Maybe some parts of it, but there's some parts that are just, I think when people talk about leadership, which I'm a little tired of that conversation actually, but that really just comes down to being a person, right? You have friends, don't you? And how do you...
I do. Right, so I have friends.
You have family, I'm sure. And so how do we interact? How do we motivate? We can't actually motivate anybody. But I don't think it's as big of a mystery as people think. But there are some mechanical parts that good. So so maybe I'm okay at being a person with other people, right? So maybe that does come naturally. But some of the other stuff is mechanical, like I was saying. So like where I was failing constantly in those e-commerce days was, how do you actually find the right person? And there was one thing that really just made the biggest difference to me. It sounds ridiculous. Do you know Grant Cardone? Do you know who he is?
I don't think so. It's familiar, but yeah.
He's one of these online business gurus, extremely brash, super obnoxious, and most people will love him. He's a sales and real estate guy. Yeah. So polarizing kind of figure. And maybe the listener's heard of him. Maybe the listener has some opinions about him. And so he'll say something that is going to sound really dumb, and maybe it is dumb, but maybe it's super smart actually. But anyway, so back in like 2015, I was having all of these troubles, and I was listening to his audiobook, The 10X Rule. So he's a 10X bro guy. And he's got the audiobook, he narrates it. He's got this strong voice. If you really need just a kick, that'll do it. But one thing that I learned from him that I thought was really smart, and it really did change everything, was he said, so he's a sales guy, right? So he says, I'm always selling. Even when I'm buying, I'm selling. And he went on to tell a story of an example of it, so I guess I might as well. But basically, if he's buying an apartment building, he's putting in an offer or a bid, and there may be other people bidding against him. Most people would just put in the bid and wait and see. He doesn't do that. He says, when I put in my bid, I'm going to contact the seller and say, hey, listen, here's what's going to happen. I know I'm bidding against these guys, but if you sell to them, you're going to have to go through their committee. They've got a board of directors that's going to have to do all this process. You're going to have to negotiate on this, that, and the other. Listen, if you just sell to me, I say, yes, I'm your guy. I don't have anybody else. Let's go. Let's be done. And so when I heard that, I thought, oh, wow. Yeah, you're always presenting something to the world, and they're always influencing people in your personal life, whatever, your professional life. And so I was in the midst of this terrible challenge that I had, I realized I'm not buying someone's time. I'm selling them an opportunity.
Yeah.
That changed everything. It really did.
What that makes me think of, there's really two stages to this. So one is, these days, we know that hiring is hard in the accounting industry. It's hard to find especially US-based tax pros, senior level people, it is really difficult. And so a lot of when we do marketing for accounting firms, yes, we're trying to help them generate leads, but a lot of times it's communicating the culture of who they are as a business because they're speaking as well to prospects and people that could work for them. We will usually build a careers page. It's like a landing page. It's a sales page for the company selling the idea of working here because the competition is high and people they're not just looking for the biggest paycheck, although I guess some are, but they want to believe in the place that they work and all that. And that leads to the second piece, which is you do want to think about what kind of business do we have that makes this a place that I want to be. It's a competitive advantage today to have a point of view or a philosophy of what kind of company you're going to be for your team. And that's going to give you more continuity, easier to hire, good reputation, all of these things. And so the recruiting, the hiring, the sales of the business like that, I think maybe it's always been this way. But I know 100% right now, this is a key place that the firms that are really successful have their team figured out. That is one of the components that allows them to grow. And the ones who can't hire for whatever reason, they're really struggling out there, the ones that can't staff very well.
Yeah, and let me add just you said that's what you said about the landing page, careers page being a sales letter. That's exactly right. And as soon as I made that switch in my mindset, because I didn't know anything about recruiting or hiring, and so I think I did what a lot of people do is, how do I hire someone? I guess I'm going to have to put a listing on one of these websites. How do I do that? Let me go and see what other listings look like. Okay, I see how this works. Let me just do a version of that, replace this information with my information. That's the worst possible thing you could do, right? Because then you don't stand out. You're just like one of a sea of mediocrity. And so as soon as I understood that, my job description became not a job description. It became a sales letter to the ideal person.
Yeah.
So you have to know who you are and what you are as a firm, what you have to offer, which is more than you think. It's not just benefits and blah, blah, blah. And then the ideal type of person. What kind of person is this? What do they want? What do they want for their life? And then speak to that.
Yeah.
And repel the other people, right? Because there's going to be people who are qualified, but going to be a terrible fit for your firm, right?
Yeah.
And you want to repel them.
Yeah. It's generally better to appeal strongly to a specific subset of people than to appeal weakly to a broader group. And even when it comes down to practical things like, are you a remote only or an in-person only firm or a hybrid, there are people that want to go to an office. So you don't have to try to appeal to everyone. Oh, what if we find a great remote person or someone who needs to be hybrid? You can make accommodations for your team for sure. But if you're an in-office team, that can be a competitive advantage because there are certain people, that's what they want. And if you're a fully remote team, that can be a competitive advantage too. And what you end up doing a lot of times, I think, is when you don't really understand what makes you unique and special and understand how it can be framed in a way that is going to be really appealing to the right person, you may not find them or you may not realize that there's as many of them out there as you might think.
Yeah.
Let's take a break here. We're going to do some ads and then we're going to come back and talk about some tactical, practical marketing things. This podcast is brought to you in part by Works. Now, if you're a business owner, you know that your reputation is one of the most important things. And your reputation isn't just about the work that you do. It's not just the tax advice that you give or the bookkeeping services or the advisory, any of that. Your clients depend on you to make good recommendations for other things like professional services. Payroll is one of those areas where mistakes can be really costly and unforgiving. That's why firms choose Works. With Works, your clients get world-class payroll and HR support. You get the peace of mind knowing you've referred them to a team that you can trust to take care of them. So you look good and they're happy. You can learn more at works.com. That's WHIRKS.com. This podcast is brought to you in part by Team Up. What is the number one mistake that accounting firms make when they're offshoring or outsourcing? That's that they treat that team member like they're an offshore team member, instead of treating them like they're part of their team. That's what makes Team Up different. They help you hire direct and bring people to be a part of your culture, your processes, and your team. They are going to share the same values, opportunities, and culture as everyone else on your team. Want to learn more? Go to hireteamup.com. Again, that is hireteamup.com. All right, we are back. Again, this is the Marketing for Accounting Firms podcast. Isaac Smith from Team Up is with us today. Let's talk about the practical sides of marketing. So these days, you're part of Team Up, and I'm just curious, what are you all doing from a sales and marketing, and I guess specifically, what are you doing on a weekly or monthly basis when it comes to marketing? How are you spending your time in that role?
We're trying lots of things, trying and failing.
A lot is changing right now.
Yeah, but so I end up doing lots of different things. Weeks are not generally the same. Some of the things that do remain the same are writing, and of course I'm the one who does sales. But I like to think of it as really the earlier conversation of looking for the good fit. And so it's really more of the conversation. And I think so marketing and sales are somewhat discrete things, but they do connect. Mm-hmm. And for a listener who is doing sales for their accounting firm, I think a lot of what we do can probably be applied to that. And I think comfortable. So we could talk about that, or we could talk about writing and generating leads. And also it's building that continuous relationship with somebody who's not quite ready, right? Because not everybody's ready to move forward. So a bunch of different things if you think about the funnel from bottom.
Let's start by talking about writing, because I know this is a topic that is, the first thing I'll say is I think that because of these large language models, writing has been one of the first things to be really disrupted. And in my world, copywriting, writing emails, writing blog posts and things like that, we're seeing almost across the board that those tasks are being highly, if not completely, outsourced to ChatGPT. And there's a tension here. Speaking as a marketer, there's a tension. Most firms for a lot of things, they need to hit a threshold of professional writing. We used to do more writing for accounting firms, but we don't anymore because honestly, ChatGPT can write as good of an article as a junior copywriter, which was usually about the price that was worth paying for most of these smaller accounting firms. They weren't paying super experienced journalistic type writers in most cases. And these days, in a lot of cases, we help coach and teach people how to use AI tools to write. And on the other hand, I think it's ruining the internet, and it's terrible for all of us. It's so easy to generate just massive volumes of junk, and it's hard to find unique perspectives and all of this. And so there's this tension of when is it right to use this tool and to make me sound smarter or better or work faster, and when is it important to really spend the time to actually sit down and write? And this is just the general context that I want to frame this, but I know that you do some writing for Team Up and for your marketing. Tell me a bit about your process and how have you navigated this tension? What are your thoughts on the writing of it all?
I'm smiling because do you want a polarizing hot take?
Yes, definitely.
All right. I think AI is disruptive to lazy, bad writers. It's additive to quality for good writers. Mm-hmm. And we are starting to see who's who.
So which camp do you fall into?
I'm not one. I can't judge that. So maybe only some could or somebody else. But
yeah. Tell me about your writing practice and if and how you integrate AI into that.
I do. I use it constantly. So I've always liked writing. Earlier, you and I were talking about how writing is a good tool for getting your thoughts out. Understand what you even think about something. I've always felt that very deeply, and I used to write a blog. I'm writing in different formats. But one thing that I've always loved doing for this business and also the bookkeeping firm is writing a newsletter, and I try to be very thoughtful. So with the bookkeeping firm, I would write about the things that I've learned about managing your business with the information that you have. What do your numbers mean? Like I said earlier, educating to meet my clients where they were, which is pretty low in terms of their financial literacy, and then just give them the one next step.
Yeah.
So, for example, I did write email newsletters about that net profit line in your bank account. I told them I told them that level of thing. And I always liked that. I found that they enjoyed reading that, and I could tell some stories. And so I've continued that today. Back then I didn't have AI, but now I do. And I think AI just supercharges what I'm able to do. Not just the quantity of it, but the quality of it is far higher than it was before because I'm using this tool.
And I think I agree with your hot take. The nuance, it has a lot to do probably with the timing of it. So you've honed the skill of writing over a long period of time. And so when you come to write a newsletter or an article, you have an idea of what you're trying to say and how you're trying to say it, and you can use this tool to really maximize and improve upon the output. I think the biggest mistake that we see is people who they're not outsourcing the writing, they're outsourcing the thinking in the writing.
Yeah, that's a mistake.
And there's this framing or this quote that writing is thinking. And so when I'm going to say, especially for firms that are moving into a niche, or if you want to be, let's say you're a firm owner and you want to be like a thought leader, you can't outsource your thoughts to ChatGPT and think that you're going to sound smart. Like the only route to get there, I think in most cases, is to do the work. And the most direct way of doing the work often is like sitting down and trying to articulate these things. I've learned, this is going to sound like so egotistical, but I've learned so much from myself by writing. And these days, I don't know if you're seeing this as well, I'm learning a lot from myself by dialoguing with ChatGPT. I use a program called Whisperflow, which it allows you to you hit a hotkey on your computer. And so most of my interactions these days with AI are actually me speaking out loud, and then it's helping me clean up my thoughts, and then it summarizes it in ways that are oversimplistic, and then I have to tell it like, no, this is more of what I'm trying to say. And it's a great companion in that way. So I would agree. I think that I've learned more. But I had to spend a lot of years writing and thinking about some of these things. So that's the cautionary tale that I would throw out there. I see you nodding along. I think you must agree, at least to some degree.
I do exactly the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and I would also say you don't want to outsource your thinking, but it is amazing. I think it increases the quality of my writing, but it also increases the quality of my thinking, or at least how quickly I'm able to cycle through refining my thoughts.
Yeah.
Because it does, like you say something, and then if you're writing a section on whatever the topic is, and you say, I'll just tell you how I do it.
Yeah.
So I love to walk. I love to go for walks. I go for an hour walk almost every day. And if I have something on my mind, whether it's something I'm writing about or not, maybe it's just there's so many things going on, I want to think about what my next steps are, I'll just pop on, not ChatGPT or any of those, a voice recorder, transcription recorder. So I use Otter. It doesn't matter what it is, right?
Yep.
And I'll just go for a walk and I'll talk to it. I'll just talk to myself. And I may look crazy walking around the neighborhood. Talk to myself for an hour about whatever it is. And when I get back home, I sit down, I go on and I get that transcript and I just plunk it right into, and now I'm using a bunch of AI. I use them simultaneously and see which one gives me the best answer.
Yeah.
And then I'll give them that to each other and see what they say. So I'll just then I have a summary, like you're saying. And if it's something that I'm writing, then I'll say, okay, what would be a structured way to walk through this? Because my brain, if I'm just out for a walk, it's like totally all over the place. So now I have a structure, I have an outline. And then, okay, using my actual words, but in a more concise way, you write the first section. And then it'll do it and it'll do a terrible job. And I'll give it to the other AI and see which it's coming together. So that's what I do. It is amazing because sometimes it'll take what I said and say something new that I didn't think about. Or say it in a way that makes a lot more sense. And I was like, whoa, now I feel conflicted because if I were using a ghostwriter, like I could take credit but also give some credit. But is this me?
Yeah.
I don't know if I should take credit for this. But that's the weird, messy part of it. But yeah, so that way I am able to and also running through drafts that way is I was always just the slowest writer, right? 1,000-word article or whatever for the blog, and it would take days. And so now I'm spending that same time putting out a lot more and better content.
Yeah.
Because I can just go through it so much faster.
For anyone listening, as an easy way to start using AI tools, and as your business grows, so if you're an owner of a firm especially, your role, my belief, is that it should become less and less about one-to-one interactions, especially with clients, and more about one-to-many interactions, right? Like you're the face of the firm in a lot of cases, and maybe you're the main person that people know at your firm, but you have a limited amount of time. And so a better use of your time is finding ways to be present and communicating with your clients, but not in back-to-back calls all day. A newsletter is a great way for you to do that. And the problem is a lot of accounting firm owners, turns out they didn't go into accounting because they love writing. There's something else that they love. And so you may not think of yourself as a great writer. A better way to write an article about that is to go on a walk or sit down at your computer and dictate a situation where you had to do something that was difficult in your business and ask AI to help you turn that into an article, or take your stream of consciousness thinking, get a transcript of it, put it into AI. Now you've got the base of your thoughts turning into interesting content. Because the AI tools are very good at writing, but they're really its lowest common denominator. They're picking up the most common thinking on the internet and reprocessing it as it puts out to you if you're asking it to do the research and write the work. But if it's reinterpreting the things that you're saying, I think you get more interesting ideas and concepts and the things that we actually care about. Because I know this from the podcast. People want to hear about the people behind companies and other firms. It's not just, we don't just need more information and tactical advice. We want to know that there's a human, which in a weird way, AI is giving us new opportunities to be more human in
Yes, that's the thing.
If it's done.
There's so crazy to me that everyone is focused on the tension in what's going to happen to all the jobs and this is going to make us so disconnected. No, you idiots. This is going to amplify what we can do with if we think of it that way. And it's all just in your mind. Yeah.
So how often are you publishing your newsletter? You said that's a once a week thing?
No, I do it every other week. Okay. And these days, every other week.
And do you plan out your content calendar? Do you have a good idea of what you're going to write about? Or is it a little bit more week by week as you're thinking about what's coming to mind and what's important?
I wish I were more structured about it, but it's really just, oh crap, I got to write something for next week. What's happening in the world of news, but in the world of my clients and just things that come up. I actually thinking about what could an accounting firm owner do. Like you said, they don't usually get into business because they like business. They do because they're good at accounting. And that goes back to the E-myth. Gerber, the baker is good at making cupcakes, but not that. A business is so much more than just rolling the dough. Yeah. And you get stuck rolling the dough, and that's why your business can't grow. And accountants are in that boat. Fortunately or unfortunately, I've never actually been good at anything that I've built a service around. And so I haven't been able to do this fulfillment. And so that kind of frees up some time by default because I have to hire great people to do the work. Yeah. But what could a business owner do if he or she had a little bit of time to write something? I think, like, what was the last problem that you helped a client with? I know accountants are going to go, that's private. It's financial information. No, it's not. You can tell the story.
Yeah.
You can tell what you've learned and how your other clients can avoid a bad situation or get a good result from something. And that's pretty easy. And so that's the kind of stuff that I used to do, right? So I would have calls with clients. Wow, this person, this is going to sound bad, but this person doesn't understand the real cost of goods or something about cash flow. It's usually about cash flow. I think most business owners, so a client to an accounting firm, usually understands how the P&L works, but they don't understand how cash flow works, especially if it's an inventory bit, right? Yep. Or if it's on credit or whatever. And so, like, you can take, here's a problem that we saw this week, and here's a way that you can think about it, and here's a way you can avoid that. And so that's pretty easy, like just quick idea generation. You're very opinionated on whatever that is. And now, if you, like you said, if you do the transcript, if you just talk about it, you do a transcript, that's a pretty fast way to get that down in email form.
Yeah. Isaac, we'll work towards landing the plane here. What's your personal tech stack right now? What are you using within, because you do sales for your company, you do some writing and use AI. What are the important tools that you use?
We are migrating. So in terms of marketing or just in general?
It's in general.
Marketing is on my mind at the moment. We have been using ClickUp as a CRM, which is just very heavy. Yeah, but it's something that I made, right?
Yep.
Extreme data entry heavy. I recommended, but it worked. We have to have a higher volume of clients than I think most accounting firms do if you just need something you can use. But you'd have to set it up yourself. Mm-hmm. But what we are moving towards, we're in the process of going to ActiveCampaign. Mm-hmm. I do use for emails for the newsletter MailerLite. So I think for a lot of accounting firms, that would be a pretty good option. We've outgrown it a bit, want some different features, want a little more integration into the CRM. That's why we're moving to ActiveCampaign for both of those. HubSpot is the more expensive alternative.
Yeah.
Although accounting firms, HubSpot might be good because if you just need a CRM, that one's free. They charge you for everything else.
Yeah. Yeah, if you just need the CRM, they've got a great hook. I would consider HubSpot in a lot of ways best in class in terms of the offerings out there. It's just that the prices get pretty expensive as you start adding on a few things that you need here and there, and all of a sudden it's like a $1,200 a month software bill. So I do love, we've used ActiveCampaign a lot with our clients in the past, and these days we use Go High Level is the other one that we use a lot. And you mentioned Otter and that you're using a couple different LLMs.
Yeah.
What are you finding between the ones that you're using? Do you have any insight into what you like about the different ones?
It's evolving quickly. So, of course, ChatGPT is like the main one that's most accessible for most people for some reason. I've used Claude a lot. Mm-hmm. And until just a couple months ago, Claude was an order of magnitude better at writing than ChatGPT. Like, incomparable.
Yeah.
And it got it so, like, I could very easily get it to write an entire newsletter in my voice and just saying go.
Yeah.
And you have to give it some examples of previous things that you've written. I don't know, it started to not work as well. And then, so I had ChatGPT open beside it and I'd give it the same thing. And then it started getting much closer to my writing. And now ChatGPT is, in my experience, better than Claude. And I'm like, whoa. And it's not the 5.0? This one, it was before that this
the 4.0
transition. Yeah. And then I was like, oh, I remembered I have Gemini's included with my Google Workspace. So I'm not, but it is terrible at writing. Atrocious.
Yeah.
But it's not bad at research. So it's better at certain. Then I recently started using Grok just to see and it's really good. I find Grok to be far more thoughtful if you want it. So what I'm doing right now, we don't need to get into it if you don't. I'm writing our story, the team up story, in like a narrative thing, the hero's journey style kind of thing, really getting into it. And so I'm giving it like my drafts, and here's the arc that I want to tell. How does this fit? Where are the weaknesses? I'm giving those instructions to all of these LLMs. And Grok is so thoughtful, like unbelievably good.
Which is
Better than
fascinating
the others. Yeah.
because this is just probably broad brush. But when I think of Grok is obviously very closely brand tied in my mind to Twitter. And I just don't think of Twitter as being a very thoughtful place in general these days. So
Yeah, I know, right?
It's interesting to hear.
It seems more analytical than the others to me.
Yeah.
It seems more like it's actually going to take you seriously,
Yeah.
and not just throw a bunch of stuff at you that it thinks you want to hear.
Yeah. That's one of my biggest annoyances, I think, with ChatGPT right now is every time I correct it and give it a different context, I'm like, oh, that's so smart.
Unbelievable.
Those are the exact right questions you should be asking.
Yeah. And
Yeah, ChatGPT loves me.
Grok will do that in some way too, but it seems like I don't know, it's just, I can't really describe what it is. There's something a little different there.
This is probably where we should put a timestamp in and say we're talking September 23rd, 2025. These things are changing. The models that these companies are using change the way the output is, and they're all in competition to one-up each other. And so it is whatever your priors are, whatever you think you know about these different models, it may not be true in 3 months, 6 months from now. And if you're in the writing space, if you're using it for writing, I think it is worth continuing to at least be aware of and try out some of these different models at different times.
I should add something though. So like Grok, so I'm using the paid version of I'm only using the free Grok. And so I'm thinking like, wow, what's the paid version like? Maybe I should try it. But here's the thing. So like Grok will be very thoughtful, but ChatGPT right now is nailing my language and tone of voice.
Yep.
What I'll do is I'll get the structure from Grok. Like maybe I should do an outline or the others, and then I'll have all of them right. But ChatGPT's right now is I'm gonna, and then of course I do a lot of editing afterwards. But
yeah, for sure. This is super interesting. I'm glad we were able to get into the weeds a little bit of how we use this for writing. But I think we should probably wrap things up here. Isaac, give us, where can people find you, and where would you want to point them to if they're interested especially about Team Up and the services you provide?
Sure. You can find me. You can find me on LinkedIn if you want, or you can find me at our website. So it's hireteamup.com. But yeah, what we do is pretty simple. We just help people hire accounting staff in the Philippines. We're just recruiters. And that's the main thing that's different about us is we're not an outsourcing company. And I was shocked that we're the first recruiting company for accountants in the Philippines. How is this possible? Everybody else wants to add a monthly fee. I don't quite get it. But yeah, so if you're interested in that, you want to learn more, I'm happy to chat. I don't need to make a hard sales pitch or anything, but that's what we do.
I'll just throw it out there as well. We're in the marketing space, but we also have team members in the Philippines, and we didn't go through an outsourcing company. We found people directly, and we've been really happy with it too.
Yeah.
You should definitely check out Team Up. I think with that, I'm Matt Banker. Marketingforaccountingfirms.com is where you can find us. And obviously, if you're listening to this podcast, we would love it if you go and give us a rating or review on Apple or Spotify, wherever you listen. That helps other people find the show. So please do that for us. And with that, I'll just say thank you again, Isaac, for being on the show.
Thank you, Matt. It was really fun being here.
This podcast is brought to you in part by Works. Here's the thing. Clients don't love having a hodgepodge of a bunch of different advisors. Really, they would love it if they could get the advice that they need from one trusted source, and that source could be you. Offering payroll through Works allows you to become more of that advisor. Whether you're referring your clients or you're building a payroll practice of your own, Works will deliver the back office strength and support that your clients expect, and you can stay as the hero and trusted advisor in their story. Learn more about how to partner with Works at works.com. That's WHIRKS.com. This podcast is brought to you in part by TeamUp. TeamUp is a recruiting firm that helps you hire direct in the Philippines. But how do you hire in the Philippines? Do you need to understand Philippine employment law? There really are two main options. You can hire a contractor where you pay them directly and they handle their own tax and compliance. Or you can work with an employee of record, or it's similar to a PEO. They handle the payroll and compliance. They pay the employee, you pay them, but they aren't involved in any of the day-to-day work or management of your employee. TeamUp is not an employment of record, but they can refer you to one if you want. Either way, the day-to-day experience is the same. So if you've been considering hiring in the Philippines, but you're worried about everything being above board from an employment and compliance standpoint, TeamUp can help guide you through that process. You can learn more at hireteamup.com. Again, that is hireteamup.com.